Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. My name is Olga Atamanova and it's my pleasure to see all of you here. Today we have invited you for a presentation of a project called Polyphony of Personality with Anatoly Matviychuk. So it's our pleasure to have us speakers in our studio. So let me introduce them. First is Mykhailo Shved, director of the National Philharmonic of Ukraine, and Anatoly Matviychuk, the project author. We have a brief video about this project, so I suggest we start with this video and then we proceed to the details with our speakers. And I'm asking the technical team to put the video on the screen. Music storytelling with Anatoly Matviychuk, Anatoly Polomarenko. So, Mr. Mykhailo, National Philharmonic decided in cooperation with Anatoly Matviychuk to launch this project. Let's talk about it, how the idea emerged, what is the goal and the purpose of the project. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attention to our project. Lately, the National Philharmonic of Ukraine pays a lot of attention to the requests of our audience. We are looking for new forms of cooperation. We try to work with some broader audiences. We come up with more projects for the children. We write music for the cinema. We will take part in the festivals, in the cinema soundtrack festivals, and we pay a lot of attention now to cooperation with the publishers. We've implemented already a number of projects in this field, and for us it's important that this word sounds not only in Philharmonic but also in other projects. We cooperated with Mr. Anatoly on a project called Skarby, The Treasures. It was based on the lyrics of Mr. Anatoly, and we worked on the project called The War, the verses written by modern Ukrainian poets about today's war. And in this context, we've came up with an idea to pay tribute to our famous artists, to get our broader audience familiarized better with them, because we have prominent personalities and not all of their interesting works, not all of their achievements are known to the public. And Mr. Anatoly has come with the idea of suggesting a number of projects in the form of storytelling dedicated to a number of prominent personalities. I think Mr. Anatoly will give us more color on that. So we want to talk more with the prominent artists of the modern era, and the first project will be dedicated to Mr. Anatoly Polomarenko, the hero of Ukraine. He's an artist of the National Philharmonic of Ukraine, who is about to celebrate his 85th anniversary this July. So it was a logical choice to start our project with this outstanding personality. And here I would like, if you don't mind, to suggest to give the floor to Mr. Anatoly so he tells us more about what is the concept. So yes, Mr. Anatoly, let's talk about the format. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Mykhailo for his attitude to the art that unites two important things. That first thing, that he understands that the pledge of this, the idea that moves forward the art, is the combination of the generations, young generation and older generation. And I'm surprised that this project that we discussed in such, simple atmosphere is gaining more and more momentum and attention, and I start realizing how important it is myself, and I will start with creation of the world. So what's written in the Matthews? First there was a word, and the word was God. And what I'm thinking is that probably within the last years, or probably even decades, the word was so devaluated that only very specific artists who understand the value of this word, they still remain those real reproducers of the word, and those who continue spreading this word, and they are worth as much as gold. We're looking for additional resources amidst this war, and the war is not only going on in a physical plane, but in a mental plane too. This is why the artists are important today. And Anatoly Matviychuk, the first personality described in a project, he is the embodiment of this Homer, somebody who carries this mystery of the word inside him, who carries this force that was diluted within years and decades. So just imagine a personality who unites Pavlo Glazovy, Ostap Vishnya, Taras Shevchenko with all his wisdom and prophetic wisdom, Vasil Stepanik and Nechui Levitsky. It's like the all-Ukrainian multiverse. But we all know it, like, yeah, he's a great individual. He is the epitome of the force of Ukrainian literature, its power. But every person before growing this big, they were building themselves somehow. So it's interesting to take a peek at that laboratory, to talk to that person, in front of the audience, to find out something from him that only he has knowledge about. Every artistic person have their artistic laboratories, so the way they pick their material for work, the methods that they use to reproduce, translate this wisdom to the further generations. We don't know about his professor's work, which is quite extensive. For me, it was a breaking point. I've heard him work with the youth, what he tells them, what he pays attention in his lectures to them. It's even important for the politics now, because knowing how to talk, how to properly put the accents, that's the art that not so much people in our society wield. Many can talk, but not so many may properly put the accents. But this is exactly what he teaches his students, to put the accents in the right way. And what's also interesting, he never betrayed Ukraine. He was working with different regimes, different political currents. He was as an icebreaker. He was just following straight his course. Just a couple of words about what storytelling is. It's fashionable now to use words like this. So storytelling is basically a fairy tale. A person is telling a story, and this knowledge, this skill how to tell a story, was lost in our culture too. I remember back in the Soviet era, there was one man, I can't recall his name, but it's gonna pop up in my memory eventually. So his skill to capture people with his storytelling, it's an art of a kind. And when two people interact during such conversation, it's even more interesting. I think that what's incredibly interesting is that Mr. Mykhailo understands that the verbal information that is contained inside that word and non-verbal that is hidden in the music, they should walk hand in hand. They should reinforce each other. They should continue creating this synergy that emotionally influences the people, because the people, despite having this broad pattern of means of emotional stimulation, they lose this ability to feel the word, to be compassionate with the music. They are losing the skill of analyzing the complicated music, complicated text. And what we plan under our project, apart from this monologue of the artist telling about himself, we will complement it with music like piano solo or violin or something else, because the word combined with music gains better and more accents. They open, time and space planes that enrich a personality. The poetic word is like a virus opening up inside a person, and the same happens to poetry. The same thing is with music. If it's not a made-up genre, it's something very well forgotten, right? Because the format of public interview is quite an interesting format. So whom do you plan to invite for these public interviews? Who can become spectators and listeners of your show? In Ukraine there's a lot of personalities, but somehow the majority of the journalists, they have their focus shifted elsewhere. They talk about everything: lovers, cars, beautiful life, but nobody talks about the substance of a personality. What made them talented? Talent is like a pearl in a shell. It's honed for a long time, so I can only currently relate to personalities that I know personally. I love a person of Kirilo Stetsenko, a famous violinist, a famous public opinion leader, famous culture activist. Sometimes I talk to him on the phone, and sometimes it takes hours that we discuss some cultural topics, and we have an idea of making a public blog dedicated to the cultural topics. Probably I will one day implement it, even probably shortly. I'm really interested in personalities of this generation that is going into eternity, like Vadim Krishenko, a famous poet who put his life on an altar of Ukrainian son. A very rich, internally rich personality, and he says, I have just 1 year to my anniversary, because he's curious what it's gonna look like. So I would like to invite him in Kiev National Philharmonic. There's a lot of people working, and I want to find out more about them, because the problem of our culture is like in one saying, like one knew how to cook but didn't know how to serve. We have wonderful conductors, musicians, composers with conceptual thinking, but we know almost nothing about that. It's like the music sounds by itself, a person lives a modest life by themselves, but no, we have to pull these people in front of the mass media, in front of the audience, to talk to them, to make them open up, so that people see that we have our titans, not somewhere beyond the ocean, that there is sun shining somewhere in the west or in the east. But no, when it's in zenith, it shines over very interesting personalities in our land. We just need to change the paradigm of attitude to our artists, our personalities. If we don't look through all of the generations, because we move as a train that moves forward, then picks the rails behind, the train and puts it in front of them. No, we have to pull together all of the generations. We don't have to destroy what's behind us, because the existence of the nation is the harmonic unification of youth, wisdom, the synergy of all that experiences, ages, different world outlooks. And this is the real pledge of our development, of our growth. Thank you very much, Mr. Mykhailo, Mr. Anatoly. So, what do you set as a goal for yourself? What will you view as a success of the project? Well, in National Philharmonic, we really support Ukrainian artists, Ukrainian music a lot, and now we're focused on Ukrainian music, different projects related to Ukrainian artists. We have a number of such projects as Modern Out of Time Music, a cycle of concerts by Ukrainian composers. We had Victoria Poleva and Svetoslav Lunyov, and we will deem it successful when we will have spectators coming to those concerts who understand that synergy that Mr. Anatoly has mentioned, when the important messages are being translated to younger generations. We will definitely record that program, and they will be available in the YouTube channel of National Philharmonic, so that the broader audience can get familiarized with the project, and it will be deemed successful by us when the participants of the project will get more interest to their ideas, to their cultural identity, something they were going to implement their whole life, but something was omitted, something was prevaricated, something they were not able to say due to the circumstances. But we want to make sure that this dialogue between the prominent artists and the society is ongoing. So it will be an important contribution to this activity, in our opinion. Yes, Mr. Mykhailo has put it in a very right way, but let me put it in a more generalized form. For me, this project, or the majority of other projects that we're about to do, you know, in our country, we have to change the paradigm of information perception. What paradigm do we have now? We have entertainment broadcasts. Everything is aimed to entertain, to have fun, to laugh, to rest. As if we work too much. Well, within the last 2 years, you know, it seems to be so. No, I mean the TV, show business, information space, we keep entertaining the audience. We need to change this paradigm. Our paradigm should be educational, training, enlightenment. People should be perceiving the music, should be perceiving the poetic texts, the lyrics, perceiving this information. They are supposed to study, to grow more and more perfect. We stop the growth of a personality with this entertainment paradigm. We hold them back at certain low level, and for me, I would consider it success when people in the information space, those responsible, the top managers of broadcasting, radio stations, TV channels, so that they start thinking, how long more are we going to entertain the people? Let's probably start educating them, open new horizons for them. Let's not stop at one spot. Our society